KVIA.
The world is looking at El Paso.
What will we say to the world? Live from the KELP studio in El Paso, this is 915 Talk.
And now your host.
Good afternoon, beautiful citizens of the borderland. This is 915 Talk, and I am your host, Andy Frecka. However, for the very first time in 915 Talk, we are not live, and you're going to find out why in a minute. It'll make total sense, and our guest has a great excuse for not coming in live on 4 p.m. on a Friday. But this is 915 Talk, and as you heard in the introduction, the world is looking at El Paso. You know, think of everything that's going on in the world with, global events, and somehow we here in the borderland make both the national and the international news. And the second part of that is, what will we here in the borderland say to the world? And so our guest today, I know I say this every Friday, but he is very special, a very special guest. I've been looking forward to this for weeks. And this is someone, he doesn't even need an introduction. As soon as you hear his voice, if you've been in El Paso more than a couple weeks, you'll know exactly who's here. He is an El Paso icon. However, he's not originally from El Paso. He grew up just outside of Chicago in the beautiful suburb of Oak Park, Illinois. He then went on to, according to his profile on X.com, which is the Twitter, now known as X, he is a part-time pecan and alfalfa farmer. And so we definitely need to dig into that because according to the website of his employer, he's someone who loves playing in the dirt. So we need to dig into the dirt as well. I do want to say as well, he's a genuinely nice guy, I think, from everything I've seen. And I have seen where he's in public and people walk up and talk to him and he takes time with everyone, blowing my mind. He has a face for television, but a voice for radio. So he has 3 boys, and he enjoys spending the weekends with them doing boy stuff so that his wife can get over the testosterone overload in his home. And after living in Oak Park, Illinois, growing up there and doing his getting his college degree, he went on to Jackson, Mississippi, where he met his wife, who was a high school counselor and the church music and youth director. And then he went to Amarillo, Texas, and that seems to be a common theme here. We have a lot of people come in who spent a lot of time in Amarillo and then came to El Paso. I don't know if Amarillo is like the feeding city for El Paso or what is going on there. And then he's been in El Paso since 1999. And you do hear his voice on KELP 3 times a day, on most days, 3 times a day. He is the Chief Meteorologist for El Paso's KVIA TV, ABC 7. He is the one, the only, Doppler Dave Speelman!
What an intro. Yeah. I've never had an intro like that. You know, we need to use you for TV. Yeah. Right before I go on the air, we'll go ahead and make a cut. And we'll do that. That would be fun.
Yeah, Doppler Dave, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
That would be great on TV. Yeah. You come out with like a wrestling costume, right?
Kind of like, the Jimmy Kimmel show, right?
Right.
They make a big, so we could have you, right?
Would love that.
Have Andy doing it.
Would love that. So we're really happy to have you here. I have so many questions, and a lot of my questions are probably because I didn't pay attention in school. Mm-hmm. But we're going to get
the same way.
Yeah,
I'm the same way.
So we're going to talk a little bit about science. We're going to talk a little bit about weather. Before we get into all that, I'm also not originally from El Paso. I've only been here a couple years. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Ohio and then spent quite a few years, most of my adult life, overseas. But one of the questions that crosses my mind as I'm driving around our region is, why is the one crop that seems to be everywhere pecans?
It just started that, you have some pistachios up in the Alamogordo area. Right. And then they started planting pecans out here. And, they need a lot of sunshine. Right. But they do need quite a bit of water. Mm-hmm. And we have the Rio Grande. Okay. So that's been the big hub for pecan trees. But now that the Rio Grande we're not getting as much water anymore. Now we're struggling. Now we're seeing that those problems.
Pecan farmers are struggling because there's not as much water.
We're not getting enough water. You know,
okay.
We get water from the Rio Grande, or we pump it, from underground.
Okay.
But now we're not getting as much rainfall, so now we're struggling to get water out of the Rio because it's not filling up.
We're not getting as much rainfall here in our region, or up farther north.
All across the west and southwest, we're not getting enough. Yeah, it's scarce right now.
When did you start noticing that trend?
When I first bought the farm, we were getting, I would say, maybe about 10 irrigations, 10 to 12. Now we're down for
What is
New Mexico
an irrigation?
for 2, where we grab water out of the Rio Grande and flood the fields.
Right, and
so we were getting about 10 to 12. Yeah.
Okay.
Now we're getting 2. You know.
Wow.
That's where we're at right now. It's crazy. Yeah.
Wow. But okay, so. The only stupid question is the one that's left unasked.
No, absolutely.
Is there like a reason why this is happening, or is it just cyclical, or what?
Yeah, I mean, some people say it's human-induced climate change.
Okay,
but we're doing a climate change. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's human-induced. I don't buy into that.
Right. Okay, that's interesting.
But we go through phases. In decades of drought and of good moisture supplies, but it just happens.
Okay, so in the past history, there have been decades of drought in this region.
We've gone through the Dust Bowls, in the 30s.
Oh, that's right.
We've had situations where we just weren't getting water.
Right.
And then we've had years of abundant moisture, where we're getting 12, 20 inches a year.
Okay.
Now we're down to 4. 4 or 5 if we're lucky.
Wow!
A year. Yeah.
Wow! I had no idea. I had no idea. Yeah. That's crazy. So like,
it is.
Can you do a long-term weather analysis and tell us when we're going to start getting?
Well, I mean, it doesn't look good. Probably for a while, we'll be going through these 4 to maybe 6 inch annual precip amounts.
Right.
But it eventually changes. It eventually cycles through, and then we start getting good amounts of moisture.
Right.
So,
okay.
But right now it's not good.
Right.
I mean, if you don't have a well and you're a farmer, you're in trouble.
You're done.
Yeah. You can't irrigate.
So, how deep does your well have to go?
Well, the deeper the better.
Yeah.
Because you get better water.
Okay.
Now mine's about 260 feet deep, which is basic.
Okay.
But some people go 1,000, 2,000 feet.
Yeah, you go.
Because you don't get the salty water.
Oh,
you got to stay away from salty
brackish,
water. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
At 2,000 feet, you're not hitting oil yet.
Yeah. At least in this area.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you got the money, that's what farmers do. They want the good clean water.
Okay.
But the poorer guys, so to speak, can go 200 to 300 feet. But it gets expensive. It really does.
Right.
To drill.
Of course.
Yeah, right.
Of course. So why is it that you farm?
Well, my wife is from Mississippi.
Okay.
And I met her there when I was working in Jackson, and she's from a farm.
Right.
And then when we had the first boy, we were living in the city in El Paso. Then we had the second boy, and then the third.
Okay.
And she says, you know what, how about if we look for, some land? And we looked around New Mexico and found a place and figured this would be a good place to raise the boys.
Okay.
So that's why we moved out to New Mexico.
Okay. So
and the taxes were much cheaper.
Yeah. We're not a political talk show. However, I have noticed the property taxes in El Paso since being here.
But it's just not. I grew up in the city, where you could reach out your window and nearly touch your neighbor's house.
Yeah.
And you had a little plot of land. If you mowed the grass, it took you 10 minutes.
Right.
That type of thing with a gas mower.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn a lot when I moved out there. Now she grew up on a farm, so she understood, but we homeschooled the boys, so she said this would be a great place to, let them work and get experience and just be out in the farm country. Now, when we moved out there was not a whole lot.
Yeah.
The West Town Marketplace wasn't out there.
Right.
Now they've really built it up, which is good for us because we have room, we have space, but then 10 minutes and we're at Walmart.
That's right.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So how did you learn to become a farmer? Like, were you like?
I asked a lot of questions.
Okay.
I got to, the thing about it was, I would get farmers that wanted me to come out there and speak about weather, or they'd call me up. And I just got to meet a lot of them. And so I'd say, hey, you tell me how, the pecans, how this whole pecan business works, or
right.
I want to plant a crop of alfalfa or Sudan grass or whatever, and so they came out there and showed me what to do, and
wow.
As you know, that's how you move forward. You ask questions, right? And hopefully people will be honest with you and shed their knowledge.
Yeah,
so that was great.
How many years ago did you start?
We've been out there now, I guess it's been 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was before the time when you could just look up everything on YouTube.
Yeah, it was. And now that, but it's still good to get a guy that comes out here, that's been farming for years and years and doing the pecans and
right.
Or whatever crop you're looking at. I mean, he tells you what to stay away from and how to water and what to look for with bugs and and pests, that type of thing. So
I found a video on YouTube.
Yeah.
That I believe you posted.
Okay.
And you were working some farm machinery. Mm-hmm. Do you do all the farming work yourself?
No. I mean, I recently bought a tractor a couple years ago. I ran into a guy in McDonald's, of all places, and having a cup of coffee, and I was talking to somebody at the table, and I've been looking for a tractor, and I said, "You don't happen to know anybody that has a tractor, do you?" And he goes, "I do." And this guy was about in his low 80s, and he goes, I bought one because I'm in the business of building homes."
Yeah.
And I said, "Man, great."
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I got to know him, and he says, anytime you want to use my tractor, just take it.
Right.
And I said, "Really? I'll pay you per hour, whatever." He goes, "No." He goes, "I don't use it as much, and I want somebody to use it. I want it to run. I don't use it that often." And so it started, and for like 10 years, he never wanted to sell me the tractor, but I could just use it. But, after a while, I'd use it for like 2 weeks, and then I knew he wanted it back, and so I'd call him up and bring it back to him, and then like the next week I would need it again.
Yeah.
But he never wanted to sell me the tractor because he always felt he needed it. Now, he passed away a couple years ago, and he was like 94 years old. Mm. And near his death, I said, "Hey, Bill, would you sell me the tractor?" And he goes, "Absolutely." So that was one of the best days of my life because, you need a tractor.
Yeah.
But so I do some tractor work, but like I grow hay.
Right.
And so I get a guy that bales it for me, and I just got to lift it up and put it in my barn.
Okay.
So the manual labor.
Right. But you're doing a lot of the work yourself.
Yeah, I mean, try to do most of it.
Okay.
But the baling equipment that puts, scoops up the grass and puts it in those square bales that you see, in farmland, that takes a very expensive piece of equipment.
Okay.
And those bales are they can be anywhere from, say, 50, depending how big you want them, 50 to 85 pounds. What we call a two-string bale. It has two strings on it.
Right.
And, people use it for their horse feed and stuff. So I take the bales, put it in my barn, and then if people need it, they call me up and come by and pick up the bales.
Okay.
But I don't have horses or anything. I just sell it.
Okay. You're not taking the bales to the market or anything like that?
No. I just Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, and people come by. "Hey, you have any bales left for my horses or cows or whatever?" And then my pecan trees are on the outside perimeter of my grass field.
Uh-huh.
And the pecan trees, I have what you would consider about an acre. Mm-hmm. So I have 40 trees.
Okay.
Which is big for me.
Right.
But, in the pecan business, it's minute. I'm just a little tiny guy.
Yeah.
Because other people have thousands of acres.
Right.
So, and I get it's very time-consuming labor because you have to shake the tree. A machine comes out and shakes the tree.
You don't pick the nuts individually.
Well, you do. You shake the tree, and then the nuts fall off.
Okay.
And then you got to get on your hands and knees and pick each individual husk or pecan, and you put it in a basket. Now, it takes me 3-4 months to do it. Because we do it manual. Now, there's machines that come by the big orchards, and it's all mechanical.
Right.
They come in there and scoop them up and clean them and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then I either give them away or I just sell them to a broker.
Okay.
So you see the pecans, and I'll share this. You go to the store and you go to Albertsons or whatever, Walmart, and you get a pound of pecans. You might be, I don't know what the cost. I haven't looked lately. It might be $12, $13, right, for whole pecans.
Right.
No, I'll sell them to a middleman, to a broker. And this year I got $1.50, but last year I got $1 a pound. So I lose money. I really, and when you hear farmers talk about, a lot of people getting out of farming, and that's the reason why.
Yeah.
Very labor intensive.
Right.
And you just, if there's a drought, you lose your crop.
Yeah.
All that money that has gone into it.
Yeah.
And with pesticides and herbicides and all, now I don't use it. I strictly just go organic.
Right. Okay.
But I'm not an official organic, but I just don't like using it.
Right.
So anyway, I lose money every year, but it's just fun. It's a stress relief just to get out there and
Do your boys help you?
They do. But now that they're older, they got other stuff going on.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I'll be like, hey, can you help me? And they'll be like, I can help you for a few hours, but then, I got a date tonight, so all right, so, yeah. That's
hilarious.
So, it's basically, me.
Okay. Well, I think for those of you listening, Doppler Dave has his tractor, but he's been going to McDonald's and looking for people who have the equipment for the lifting the bales and collecting the nuts. So
and now the labor to pick up the bales is I'll tell you, it's a workout.
Right.
And if you want to help me sometime, I'll be glad to throw you out there.
You don't need a gym membership.
You don't. But I have allergies.
Oh, wow.
So I have to take my meds, and then you got to go out there. And I usually get about 160, 70 bales of cutting. Wow. Not big, but big for me.
Right.
So I got to take my truck and trailer, and we go around and we pick up the bales, and then we first of all, you got to pick them up. Again, these are 65, 70-pound bales. Right. Throw them in the trailer, stack them up about 3 levels high, and then take them in the barn, pick them up, unload them, and stack them in the barn. We usually do about 6, 7 rows high of hay. And when you're done, you're just exhausted.
Yeah.
And I've learned the hard work of farming. It's difficult. Yeah, it is. But it's rewarding,
Yeah, well, I did try farming myself for a while. I had some quail, and I do have to say my wife is not really upset that we don't do that anymore.
Yeah. It's right. Yeah, it's a lot of work, and the farmers just love it. They love being outdoors when you talk to them, and it's a need out there for farmers. They're as you can see around town, they're taking farmland and building homes.
Right.
Yeah. And the next generation, they don't want to do farming. They see their mom and dad, the hard work.
Right.
And not making a whole lot of money.
Right.
They're like, I can go to law school, and they book out of El Paso.
Right. Yeah.
So, unfortunately, that's just the trend now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, on that sad note, we're going to go on to the next portion of our program.
Yeah.
This is rapid fire questions, Doppler Dave.
Okay.
And there are right or wrong answers. We are Christian radio, so we do believe in right and wrong.
Yeah.
However, we will not heavily ridicule you for wrong answers. So without further ado, Kenny, cue up the lightning round.
Lightning round.
So, Doppler Dave, first question. Yeah. This is a culinary question.
Okay.
It's a question you hear when you go out to eat. Red or green?
Probably green.
Probably green.
Yeah, I lean towards green.
That is the correct answer.
Okay. All right. Well, good. 1 for 1.
All right. So, where is your favorite place to hear that question? Favorite Mexican restaurant?
I like L&J's.
L&J's.
By the graveyard, right?
Yes, that's like 7 weeks in a row. It's been L&J's.
Has it? Yeah.
It makes me really sad that they're not our sponsor.
Right. The big franchise, I like Chewy's.
Chewy's, okay.
Chewy's is good. Leo's is not bad, although I don't go there too often. But yeah.
Okay.
Right or wrong?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So L&J's, I think, needs no marketing.
Yeah.
I live not too far from there, and every time I go, it's a really, really long wait.
And by the way, I met him. I'm a big Luby's guy.
Yes. I was going to get into that. So tell me about your love affair of Luby's.
Well, Luby's was right down the street from the station. And when we moved to Amarillo, me and my wife, we just got married, moved to Amarillo. and we lived in an apartment complex. And what was right around the corner of our apartment complex? A Luby's.
Okay.
And they used to throw in flyers in the mailboxes, right? You see an apartment complex, there's hundreds of boxes, right? And then there was a big trash can. And it was buy one, get one free. So we're newly married. My wife wasn't working. It was just me working. I wasn't making a lot of money. My second job in TV. And so they'd send these flyers, buy one, get one free at Luby's. And we could walk a half a block and we'd be at Luby's. So you know how people go to their mailbox and they take their flyers, it's like junk mail, they throw it in the trash.
So you were getting it out of the trash.
So I would get one in my mailbox and it said, buy one, get one free.
Right.
But everybody would throw away their coupons. And so, every night, we were going to Luby's and buy one, get one free. So it was like $5. We were paying $5 for two people to eat. We're like, this is great.
Yeah.
We don't have to cook. We just keep going to Luby's. So I got addicted to Luby's. And then when I came here, there was a Luby's down from the station, which since closed.
That is amazing you got addicted to Luby's. You didn't get tired of Luby's. You got
because, you can get something different. And the reason was, a lot of us go fast food.
Right.
And I got tired of the hamburgers and the French fries, and I'm like, this is not good for you.
Yeah.
So I'd rather spend a little bit more money and get, peas and carrots, mashed potatoes, meatloaf, whatever. And so that's how I started to go.
Right.
Luby's from Emerald. So it's been
all right.
30 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Doppler Dave was getting the coupons out of the trash of an apartment complex in Amarillo. Just looking forward to his move to El Paso.
That's right.
Out of the feeder city of Amarillo.
Right, exactly.
All right. So we're still in the lightning round.
Okay.
The next question is the true test of how you view El Paso. It is also a culinary test.
Yeah.
The question is, Chico's Tacos, yes or no?
I've only had Chico's Tacos once.
Wow.
Yeah, just once. And I'm not a huge fan. I can eat them. I'll have anything. I really can, But I'm sorry, I'd rather Taco Bell.
You'd rather have Taco Bell. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I'm sorry to say that, but
all right.
But I can eat it. You know what I mean?
Right. I've only had it once myself.
Oh, yeah.
I like to give everyone a hard time.
Okay, and you enjoyed it?
My sons and I were driving around town, and every time we drive past Chico's Tacos, the parking lot's full.
Yeah.
And that's the sign of a great restaurant, right?
Right.
Full parking lot. So we go in, and we get in line. And I had to make the walk of shame from the cash register to the ATM machine because they only take cash.
Yeah.
And I come back and I pay. And then they give us this, I don't know, the broth with the tacos. Mm-hmm. And my sons and I are sitting there and we're looking around this restaurant and everyone there is so happy.
Yeah.
And excited to be there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't quite get it yet.
Yeah.
So I think I need to go again.
Okay. Now, my boys love it.
Oh, really? Okay.
They go there and they just, and they love it. So
well, they grew up in El Paso. It's part of growing up here. Something in the air.
True. Yeah.
All right. So next lightning round question. We are a biblically based radio. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have a Bible trivia question.
Yeah.
In the book of Judges, there was a man named Samson who is known for his strength. Mm-hmm. And he beat a bunch of Philistines in a field. He killed them.
Yeah.
What tool did he use to kill them?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question.
A sword.
A sword. That is not the right answer.
It's a tool.
Yeah. Well, object. It's an object.
Okay.
It was a donkey's jawbone.
Oh.
Yeah, donkey's jawbone. It's okay, Doppler Dave.
Yeah.
You're good.
That's okay. I'm still ahead in the game.
Yeah. You're like 7 out of 8 so far.
Yeah.
Next question is El Paso trivia.
Okay.
In the central square of El Paso, there's a theme. What is that theme? It is. I'll help you. It's alligators.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
So there is a sculpture.
Right at the plaza.
Yeah, at the plaza. Yeah. There's a sculpture of alligators in the middle of the plaza. Mm-hmm. How many alligators are in that sculpture?
I believe there's just one. Am I right?
You believe there's just one? How often do you go to the plaza?
Not very much.
Not very much.
No.
You're just looking out for the rest of us. What the weather's going to be. You're putting bales.
I go there and we've done promo shoots right around the fountain where the alligator is and where that town square. But I never really counted. I never paid attention.
Okay. Yeah.
How many are there?
Okay. There are 3.
Are there 3? Okay.
There are 3 alligators.
Okay.
Do you know why they had to remove the live alligators from the plaza? Do you know this story?
I don't know the story.
Yeah.
It
people were getting into fights with the alligators.
I was going to say maybe the alligators were pestering them.
Yeah, but, people were pestering the alligators.
Yeah.
So that's a sad part of El Paso history.
And when did they take the alligators away?
I believe it was the early 70s.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, late 60s, early 70s. So, I mean, I'm kind of at the age where I was like, that's not so long ago.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah.
So, all right. So I have this is a lightning round.
Okay.
So, and you are a weatherman.
Yeah.
A meteorologist, as they say. And it's just the question I have to ask.
Yeah.
I grew up in Ohio. You grew up in Chicago area. And it's a lightning question. Coming to Texas, the lightning seems to cover a lot more of the sky. Is that true, or is it just there's not trees?
You can see. Well, you can see in greater distances. Yeah. So you have a long horizon, to see lightning strikes. And I remember in Chicago, I was scared of lightning and storms. And that's a lot of times you talk to weather folks.
Right.
And how did you get into weather? And because I was scared of storms, I didn't like them, and I was fascinated by them. But my dad used to tell me, he played on church softball team, and there was lightning. I would kind of freak out a little bit. And I go, Dad, look there's lightning there. We need to get going.
Right.
He's like, oh, it's just heat lightning. Often it just, you see the just heat lightning. Heat lightning.
So
I just grew up.
He could tell by looking at it what kind of lightning it was?
Yeah, he didn't know. But he was just like heat lightning. I don't know. I guess he was taught that.
Okay, yeah.
And which is just a fallacy. I mean, there's no such thing as heat lightning.
Okay, so
but anyway,
this is not science.
I always bring it up to him. Yeah, okay. No, I always said, Daddy, remember you used to tell me it was heat lightning? Yeah, well, it was. So I mean, it was
hilarious.
Yeah, it's just lightning. You can't hear. It's just a flash.
Yeah.
So it's too far away for the sound waves.
You're not hearing the thunder.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, it was.
So the lightning back east is the same size covering the sky. We just don't see as much of it.
Yeah, or you certainly have more intense thunderstorms, so you have more lightning flashes. Right. There's cloud to cloud lightning and cloud to ground lightning.
Okay.
All right. There's negative and positive. And
right.
You can get into all that science thing, but a storm we have out here. I mean, the more lightning in the storm, the more powerful that storm is. I mean, that's just a sign of the strength of the storm. And in the Midwest, you get some big storms. There's, you get tons of lightning strikes within one storm. I mean, the sky is flashing constantly. Where here we might get a flash, and another minute passes, another flash.
Yeah.
Unless there's severe storms, then we get more right.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, last question of the lightning round.
Yeah.
If you were given the opportunity to send a text message to everyone here in the borderland, El Paso, Juarez, Las Cruces, this whole region, the text message would come to them in the language they're most comfortable with, English or Spanish in most cases.
Yeah.
What would that text message say?
Probably fear not, God is in control. With everything that's going on in this crazy world we live in now.
Right.
People are just so confused and I think uptight and worried.
Right.
And to me, just, know that God's in control and he's coming again and soon.
Amen.
And rest on that.
Right.
Let God take control.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. That is the correct answer. You win the lightning round. All right. So that actually is interesting because it kind of plays into my next question, something you alluded to earlier. One of the things I love about hosting this program is I get to meet all kinds of interesting people. And they're doing things that I would have never imagined doing.
Yeah.
It's like you go to the circus and you see an elephant balancing on top of a ball, and then there's a guy sitting on the back of the elephant, and he's blindfolded, and he's juggling flaming swords, and you're sitting there watching, and you're like, how did you get into that?
Yeah.
And so you kind of said you got into weather because you were afraid of weather? Is that how you got
Somewhat.
into it? Okay.
Somewhat. I was going to be a news anchor.
Okay.
And I got into the news business, and I was friends with a meteorologist at the TV station. I was doing, reporting and weekend anchoring. And the guy left, and they said, hey, you're always hanging out with so-and-so in the weather lab, and we need somebody to fill in. Would you be interested?
Right.
And also at that time, I was doing weather for radio stations. It was called the National Weather Network.
Okay.
And I was doing that part-time. So I knew a little bit about weather.
Okay.
Being taught by the owner, who was a meteorologist. And so anyway, I took the job.
Sorry, you didn't go to college for meteorology then?
No, I went for communications.
Communications.
And journalism, broadcast. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, so I was working there, and they had me and another guy try out. It was for a weekend weather position, and they gave it to me.
I mean, I think anyone in El Paso right now would be like, that poor guy.
Yeah,
he didn't stand a chance against Doppler Dave.
Well, it was now, but the guy
Doppler Dave yet, but
but the guy now. The last I heard, this is maybe 5 years ago. He was in Houston.
Okay,
he was the main guy in Houston.
Oh,
so
wow.
he was a lot higher up than I was.
Yeah,
but anyway, so they hired me, and then they said, hey, look, if you sign a contract for 3 years and stay with us, we'll pay for your meteorology.
Oh, wow.
To finish up, which was another about 2.5 years.
Okay.
That I catch up on all the weather and meteorology stuff. So I did that, and then
what years would that have been? Like late 90s, mid 90s?
Yeah, that was late 90s.
Okay.
Yeah. So then from there, I took a job in Amarillo, Tornado Alley.
Right.
And I remember I went to interview, and we had a big tornado outbreak. I got off the plane, and my news director goes, we're going to meet for lunch with the chief meteorologist and get together.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a big, severe tornado outbreak today, so he's got to be at the station.
So were you the guy like out standing in front of the tornado with a microphone?
Well, eventually I did.
Okay.
But for the day of the interview, but for the day of the interview, he couldn't make it.
Okay.
So that afternoon, and that was before we had the social media,
right,
and all the internet stuff.
Right.
We just had the computer with the radar. And things started blowing up. I mean, there were tornadoes popping everywhere. And this guy it was just a stress machine. He was just, back and forth doing cut-ins and on the tornadoes. And there must have been about 5 or 6 tornadoes in the area all at one time.
Okay.
Phones were ringing. That was when, you didn't have just had to answer the one phone, right? It was just a regular rotary dial-up, whatever. And so at the end of the day, I stayed overnight, and I didn't get like 2, 3 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And they were all betting I wasn't going to take the job. Like, he was like, it was too stressful, whatever. But I ended up taking it because I wanted that experience with the severe weather. So I worked
Amarillo
there.
is a good place for severe weather.
Yeah. So I worked there for, 2.5 years and then came to El Paso.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were one of the guys out in the
I did.
Yeah, with the microphone in front of the tornadoes.
Yeah. I had 3 vehicles at the time because at that time I was into flipping cars.
Okay.
I go to auctions, buy a car, and do a little fixing up to it and sell.
Yeah.
So I had 3 vehicles in the parking lot. One time we had a tornado warning in Amarillo, an apartment complex, and they all got beat up with hail.
Oh, no.
And I was thankful for that because I probably couldn't have made any money on my cars if they weren't hail damaged.
But they were insured.
So
in the end, that insurance covered a lot of
trips. So
it did.
It helped me out because then I decided I'm not going to flip cars anymore.
Wow. That's hilarious.
I didn't know what I was doing to make enough money. Yeah.
So then you came to El Paso. First impression of El Paso.
We came. My wife and I were in Amarillo, and we decided let's go to El Paso. It's not too far away, and check it out. Just visit it. We went to Carlsbad Caverns.
Okay.
And then we thought, let's just go to El Paso, see what it's like.
Just see this was not related to getting a job or anything like that.
No, this is before I took the job. And we were leaving El Paso, and I commented to my wife, I'm looking in the rearview mirror, and I'm going, aren't you glad we're leaving El Paso? And she goes, yeah.
Wow.
I go, not what I thought.
Right.
But we only stayed one day, overnight.
Right.
We stayed downtown because it was booked. And then it was about a year and a half later, I got the call to come to El Paso for the job. And so we came here, and we ended up loving it. Now, you got to realize my wife is from Mississippi. Right. Green, pine trees, lots of grain. Yes. Everything is just lush.
Yes.
Then you come to the desert.
Right.
That was a big adjustment for her. Mm-hmm. And, of course, all her family's in Mississippi, all mine's in Chicago. So we were out here by ourselves.
Right.
But we've been here 25 years now.
Yeah,
so
you're quarter century.
And that was one reason why she wanted to get a farm. She wanted more green in the upper valley.
Right.
And so, yeah.
I fully understand that.
Yeah.
It is quite a shock when you first come.
Yeah, I mean, because we lived in El Paso and we lived on a cul-de-sac, but when we bought the house, the whole lot was sand.
Oh,
and
wow.
I remember we looked at my wife, it's like, it's all sand. There's no, how are we going to grow a garden? She loved gardens and stuff. And there's no green.
So what'd you do?
Well, we had to have it landscaped, and we put artificial grass in the front, and then I think I sodded twice. I had to sod twice because you got to water a lot, and the water bills were getting expensive. So
right.
We said let's look somewhere else.
That's a true El Paso story right there.
Right. Yeah.
So you did weather in Jackson, Amarillo. How is doing weather in El Paso different? I mean, obviously it's a different climate, but how does that affect the weather report?
I mean, in Amarillo, a lot of severe weather.
Okay.
May is the big tornado month. I mean, every May we're like prepped almost every couple days. You're dealing with a lot of severe weather, tornadoes, whatever. So, and it has 4 seasons. Amarillo gets snow in the winter. They get a lot of wind chills. So it's got 4 seasons there. Jackson, Mississippi is always muggy. It's always humid.
Right.
You're always like storms every day. Some may be severe, some not. But you have them every day. Rarely do you get snow. You can.
Yeah. And
then El Paso, while we don't get the rain and the big-time thunderstorms, although we can get big thunderstorms, some severe weather at times. We got the spring winds, the blowing dust and sand.
Yeah.
We can get cold in the winter. Not always, but we can get, with the freeze and that we've had. We can get some snow on occasion.
Right.
We only average, I think it's maybe about 4 inches a year because we've had some big 30-inch snowfalls in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little skewed because of that.
30 inches of snow.
Yeah, we had that back in the 80s. Yeah, over a winter time period.
Yeah.
So that's why the numbers are skewed, because a lot of people will think, well, we average maybe a half an inch a year or an inch, but because of those years where we had those big snows, we're still high.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so we have, we certainly have our weather, but we're one of the sunniest cities, 6th sunniest city in the United States, right here in El Paso. And in fact, my boys, they always comment, my son wants to move to the Pacific Northwest because it's cloudy a lot. Cloudy and rains. He's like, I like to see that. He likes cloudy, overcast skies.
Yeah,
he loves that.
That was one of the biggest shocks for me moving here. I had this job when I first arrived in El Paso, and I'm working there for like a month or so, and then I come in one day, and everyone's like so excited and happy. Mm-hmm. And they're like, it's so beautiful outside. What a beautiful day. And I look outside, it was cloudy.
Yeah.
Growing up in Ohio, it's the opposite. A sunny day is unusual, and you get all happy.
Yeah.
So I do have a question, because this is follows under the category of there's no such thing as a stupid question.
Yeah.
I hope. But of course, everyone listening, whether they're listening in El Paso or listening from outside of El Paso, that El Paso is known for being hot.
Yeah.
But I think what a lot of people don't know who haven't been in El Paso is how windy it is.
Yeah.
Why is it so windy?
Well, in the spring, the wind is caused by high pressure and low pressure. The difference in pressure causes the wind.
Right.
But our jet stream starts to drop down. That's the big river of wind in the upper layers of the atmosphere.
Okay.
So it starts transitioning. It starts to move and sink into our area. And then we get these areas of low pressure that are pretty strong that develop in relation to high pressure. And that causes the winds to pick up. And during that time period in the spring, that's when we start to see those areas of low pressure swing through here in the jet stream overhead. We're too dry. I mean, if we had moisture in place, we'd be looking at big-time thunderstorms. It would be severe weather season.
Right.
Now, to our east, when you're in Amarillo, they get the moisture, and they get the winds too, but they have that moisture supply, so they break out in severe weather. We're too dry to see the severe weather, so we just get the winds.
We just get the wind, and that's what
and
we
they're
notice.
westerly winds, and it just comes off the desert and brings in that dry air. And so it's just, and then we get the blowing dust and sand because the dust is picked up by the winds out and then blows that real estate in our direction.
Right.
So then we get the blowing dust and sand.
Yeah, it is a shock for people who are new to El Paso.
And it's amazing. There was a PhD, I did a story a couple years ago. He did a study on what's in our blowing dust and sand. And it's amazing what I mean, I try to wear, if I'm out, I try to wear a mask because it's amazing how many organisms that you breathe in.
Right.
I would stick up, we did an experiment, I put outside some sticky paper on a pedestal out at the station for like 4 hours in a dust storm. And then we took that sticky paper down and looked at it, and it was just full of all kinds of nastiness, dust and sand and these little minute organisms that have died, but you're breathing all that in, and people don't realize it. But that's why a lot of people have problems with asthma and allergies in the spring, because they're breathing all that in. They don't realize it.
Yeah, that was surprising for me in moving to El Paso, because I thought I have, my wife has struggled with allergies, one of my sons. And I was like, well, we're going somewhere where there's nothing growing, so there's not going to be allergies. But it was quite the opposite.
Right. It takes your body time to adjust.
Right.
But some people never adjust to it. They just, they got to pop those allergy tablets, all the time.
Yeah. So you've been doing this now you've been in El Paso for a quarter of a century. It's been quite a run. And you've been doing weather for more than 25 years. Has the weather prediction process changed during that time?
It has. Okay. Yeah, it's gotten a lot better.
Okay.
I mean, we're pretty accurate.
I just want to say, I can remember growing up, it would always be, you'd hear Grandpa complaining about the weatherman.
Right.
He could never get it right.
Right. But he gets to keep his job.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm always surprised when you get it right. So tell us how it's changed.
Well, I mean, there's a lot more modeling, and the modeling is a lot better. I mean, before we had some of the modeling, the computers couldn't handle it, right, because it's so intense. But now these are supercomputers. There can be 80, 90 models, 100 models you can look at of the atmosphere and what's going on.
Right.
And they do a really good job within like five days. Now, depending where you are, I mean, it's easier to forecast here in El Paso most of the time. Now, in our monsoon season, it can be pretty difficult where storms are going to form. Right. How they're going to act. Do we have these little outflow boundaries or gusts of wind that come out, which cause other storms to develop nearby? So that can be a little bit difficult. But the modeling has gotten so much better,
and that's through Doppler radar? Is that what that is?
This is through satellites now.
Oh, of course.
Through just different modeling of the atmosphere. The models take in a bunch of data. We have more data that we get all across the world in the United States, which gets thrown into the model. So all the data we talk about, temperature and dew point, humidity, barometric pressure, all that gets thrown into the model, and it picks up where these storms are going to move, how intense they're going to get, how much moisture they have, how much rain we could see. Right. Like we'll show models that'll show how much rain we could see over the next 3-4 days, right? And it'll give us a number.
Yeah.
It's not going to be exact by any means, but it just gives us an idea.
Right.
So it's improved quite a bit.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can remember when I was little, walking through the woods in Ohio, we would occasionally stumble across a weather balloon.
Yeah. Right.
Do you use those anymore?
They use them all the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, twice a day. In the morning and at night, they send up a balloon, and that's what goes into the modeling.
Wow.
Right, so these balloons go up to about 70, 80,000 feet. Wow. Then they burst, right, because the pressure gets so low. And then what happens is they fall down to the ground, and they want you, there's a note on there that says, can you please send this back to the National Weather Service?
Yeah, we always talk about how we're supposed to do that. We never did.
No, but they'll be in trees, they'll be, in somebody's pool, whatever. Right. A lot of people just take them and throw them away, right?
Yeah.
I think they only get like 1%, less than 1% back.
Okay.
So, but they do that twice a day, all in cities all across the United States. So there's about 260 balloons that
go up every day.
Up every morning and every evening.
Yeah.
Now, if there's severe weather going on, they'll send up another balloon just to get another fresh reading of what's going on in the atmosphere.
Wow.
Yeah.
So some things are staying consistent over the years, even with the new technology.
Yeah. So that's right. So
yeah. So I guess we talked already a little bit about the how there's less rainfall in El Paso. You've been here 25 years now.
Yeah.
How else has the weather changed over those 25 years?
Well, like we talked about less rainfall. Less severe weather. We're not seeing as much severe storms, right?
Less severe weather.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get some big storms here and there. But, when I first came here, we're in our monsoon season, we were getting, very heavy rains, a lot of flooding.
Right.
And big-time thunderstorms. And, we're just not seeing that too much anymore, at least for the last few years.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And we don't know the reason. It's just cyclical, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it is. Sometimes we just don't get enough moisture. We don't have the dynamics that come together all at once.
Yeah.
People look at tornadoes and they go, well, we don't have tornadoes because we have mountains.
Okay.
And that's not the case. We don't have tornadoes because we don't have all the ingredients that come together at one point in time to see tornadoes.
What do we
well,
need
you need spin in the atmosphere.
Okay.
So a twisting motion. We call that like shear, rotating winds. We have maybe a surface wind. Like what we mean by shear is we'll have winds coming in from the southeast at the lower levels of the atmosphere right here on the ground.
Okay.
And then upper level winds might be coming in from the northeast. So you have two directions of winds causes spin.
Okay.
And that as that air rises, it'll spin. You get the spinning motion.
Right.
Now, if you have the moisture in place and you have lift, then you get the severe weather.
Okay.
But we don't always have that at the same time. I always tell kids when I speak to them, it's like making a chocolate chip cookie. If you got the flour,
right,
and you have the butter and the baking soda, but you leave out the sugar, nobody's going to eat your chocolate chip cookie. It's not a cookie. It's not a good cookie.
So we just need a few more
need the
things
ingredients
to reach
all together at once. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so the scariest topic to talk about. Climate change.
Yeah.
We've already touched on. I happen to have some friends who are indigenous reindeer herders in the north of Siberia.
Yeah.
And they tell me they find mammoth tusks there on the ground because it's melting.
Right.
These are people who they don't have a political bone in their body.
Yeah.
All they care about is the reindeer.
Right, yeah.
And so they told me this. I have some friends in Alaska who lost their home because of the melting.
Yeah.
So as far as I know, the climate's changing.
Yeah.
And you kind of said, in your opinion, you don't think it's because of human behavior.
Right.
But I want to ask you to give a really long, distant in the future weather forecast, one that you will never be held responsible for, because I hope that we are around in 30 years, you and I both.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone will remember this conversation 30 years from now.
Right.
So how will El Paso's weather be different 30 years from now than it is now?
Well, first of all, I don't think we'll be around 30 years. I really think the end times, we're living in the end times.
Okay.
So I really think, maybe we have 10 years.
Okay.
Before. Now you can get into pre-trib, post-trib, all that kind of stuff like that. And are we going to be raptured and taken away before the tribulation and all that?
Right.
So I think this is the last generation. Certainly,
wow.
I'm very positive.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
Okay.
And so I don't think human-induced. Although I'm not a fan of polluting.
Right.
I'm not a fan of wasting energy, and I battery operated cars are fine. It's not for me right now.
Right.
All right. I don't have any problem with somebody that wants a Tesla or whatever to drive around it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think God's in control and He controls our climate.
Yeah.
And it's not due to humans, and because we've gone through years and years of climate change. It fluctuates. It gets cold. It gets hot. We have floods. We don't. We have droughts, and it's cyclical. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of people, they'll come up to me and they get very angry, with me when they ask my opinion.
Yeah.
And like I'll speak to schools, right? And you'll always get that kid that'll raise his hand because the teachers are talking about climate change, right? And they're saying we're responsible.
Ask you this question.
we're responsible for it, and that's their lesson all semester. And then you get the kid that raises his hand.
Yeah,
and he's talking to Doppler Dave. Right when he asks the question, I'm like, teacher's not going to be happy with me,
right?
Because of my response.
Yeah,
and I try to tone it down a little bit, but I tell them what my beliefs are. I says, well, I know you're studying that, and that's what you guys believe. But a lot of people, I mean, you can go on YouTube and find all kind of experts, right?
Yeah,
in favor or not in favor of it,
right?
And it's just unbelievable. But yeah.
Okay.
So now you know.
So we're not going to get a 30-year prediction, just a 10-year. I got you.
Yeah. I mean, when will El Paso's, climate change and we start getting our, 10 inches of rain a year?
Yeah.
Probably not in the next couple of years, but maybe 3-4 years down the road, we could see that change, and start getting, more water.
Right.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
Right.
So, as you've clearly indicated during our conversation, you are a man of faith. Mm-hmm. You're also a scientist. You're looking at weather all the time. What clash do you see between faith and science, if any?
Well, like I said, when we were talking about the weather and climate, is one. In fact, I study eschatology and the end times and all that, so I'm big into that.
Right.
And it's funny you mentioned science because I'm going to go to Chicago in a couple of weeks, and my dad is in his upper 80s.
Right.
And I said, Dad, why don't we take a trip and let's go see that Noah's Ark in Kentucky?
Yeah, I've been there.
Have you been there?
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I said that'd be something really really cool to see.
Right.
It's only 5. Well, being from Ohio, right?
Right.
Not too far. So I said, let's go see that because I think that's pretty amazing.
Right.
With what's happened with the flood and all that kind of stuff. And so, well, I'm glad you went because I'll have to ask you after the show what you thought about that.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it and I recommend it. But that's super interesting to understand, to see just and I think for all of us who are listening right now, we watch you every night on the news, and just to hear your views on all these different things. It's really interesting.
I mean, weather is this is a day and age of consultants. Right? There's a consultant for everything.
Yes.
Well, and I tell people we have consultants for weather.
Oh.
There is a national consultant. He goes around the world speaking to meteorologists about weather because he does research on weather.
Right.
And more of the research on what people want to see in a weathercast. And we pay a lot of money for this guy to come in. He comes in twice a year.
Right.
And he tells us what the research shows. What do people want to see in a weathercast?
Right.
Because you only have, and weather is the most popular segment of the news.
Yeah.
Because weather affects everybody.
Yeah.
News doesn't affect everybody. If we report on a wreck on the interstate on the east side, the people on the west side don't care really about it, unless they were caught in that traffic. They want to know what happened.
Yes.
But weather
affects
everybody. Affects everybody. So they're interested in seeing. So the weather segment is really one of the highest viewed segments in TV. So they spend a lot of money telling us what to put in our weathercast that people want to see.
Okay.
So we don't cover national weather, like a national temperature map.
Right.
We don't talk about what's going on in Cleveland, Ohio.
Right.
They had a flood. We don't touch on it unless it's super major.
Right.
We just focus super local. Mm-hmm. And, we follow our formula, what we think people want to watch and what they want to see. And so when I tell people, they're fascinated about that because they'll be, how come you don't show the almanac every day?
Right.
The high and low temperature of the day.
Right.
And I said, well, if it's average, which is about 95 degrees this time of year,
right,
I don't waste your time showing you that. I'll show something else that I think is more of an interest to you.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So
So in the 25 years you've been in El Paso, the footprint or the territory of the city has grown considerably.
Right.
Does that change the way you report the weather? Because it's
I mean, people want to hear their hometown mentioned, whether it's Horizon City.
Right.
And if you say Horizon City hit 95 today or they have a chance of storms, they love it, right? Who doesn't, right? You want to hear your town, your city. Yes. So it's expanding.
Yeah.
So, we have to cover a little bit more territory.
Right.
And try to, our consultant tells us, mention Horizon City, mention Fabens on occasion, right?
Right.
Because people want to hear that.
Okay.
And, but and then with, with the climate issues we're seeing, it's, I mean, there's people on the network that every day it's climate change something. It's human-induced climate change. That's why we're seeing these bigger storms or bigger hurricanes. And it's every day it's the same thing.
Yes.
But anyway.
Yeah. Well, this has been so much fun, Doppler Dave.
Yep.
I feel like I could talk to you for hours and hours, but the clock is telling me that we're just about to run out of time.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you finding the time to come in and just talk to us about El Paso, talk about the weather.
I think this is when we met a couple weeks ago, it was great. Got to meet you and glad you have felt the call to take over the state, and good things are happening. And,
yes.
And we'll have to get you, a story on ABC7, and you have to tell what's going on here at the station and about this show too. Yeah.
Yes. Well, again, thank you for coming in. And for those of you listening, if you want to share this conversation with anyone, you can go to KELPradio.com, look for the 915 Talk link, and you can listen to the conversation again and again with Doppler Dave. And until next time, love God, love your city, love your neighbor. This is 915 Talk. You have been listening to 915 Talk on KELP Christian Radio. To listen to past recordings of 915 Talk, just visit KELPradio.com and click on the 915 Talk link. Until next time, love your neighbor, love your city, and give God all the glory.